just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter.
I wonder who it's from.
This man has been locked in a maximum security prison for almost 2 decades. We were investigating a famous social media influencer when we stumbled upon a secret that was hidden in plain sight. It was a single breadcrumb that led us to do something crazy. Contact a man locked away for life. This is the story of how we went from investigating a celebrity to uncovering a case with the most insane questions I've ever seen. It all started with this influencer, Brianna Battle. She's known for the domestic violence allegations against her equally famous ex, Latruth. Her entire brand is built on being real and authentic, but over 30 bloggers say it's all an act and question everything she sells. So, we decided to find out the truth. On the surface, it looks like a simple story, but it's always more complicated than that. We knew the craziest stories are usually buried in the past. So we started digging into her legal history, looking through public court records. And that's where we found it. A court case from 2008. It wasn't just a filing related to her family. It was a case between Brianna Battle and a Mr. Barnes. The charge was assault on a female, brought against him when she was just 16 years old. But the verdict was what really stopped us in our tracks. Not guilty. That was the clue. A past legal conflict with a man who shared a name we'd soon see again. This document gave us a name. It was a tiny crack in a massive wall, and it was everything we needed. We immediately stopped investigating Brianna Battle. A much bigger investigation was just beginning. The name was Candace Barnes. The first thing we found was this mugshot, a young guy, barely in his 20s. Then we saw the headlines, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. February 2014. Gang member convicted of 4 counts of attempted murder. This was insane. According to the news, Candace Rashad Barnes was sentenced to spend the next 63 to 98 years in prison for a shooting in 2012. I had a knot in my stomach. Was this really the same man from the court records? The timeline fit. The age fit. He was only 21 when the crime happened. He was now almost 40, spending his entire adult life behind bars. The official story was simple. Candace was a violent criminal who tried to murder 4 people. He filed an appeal in 2015, but the court said there were no errors. To many, that meant case closed. But the more we looked, the more complicated the official story got. The next thing we found was this: an online petition from 2013 created right before he was convicted. His family made it, and they painted a completely different picture. They didn't call him a gang member. They called him Candace. They claimed he was being framed by what they called the corrupt Rocky Mount police. The petition was a desperate cry for help, stating the police were threatening and intimidating their family. They wrote that Candace had been labeled a cold-blooded killer without a single killing. Suddenly, there were 2 competing stories. The state's story of a dangerous man, and the family's story of a young man they say was framed by a corrupt system. Which one was true? That petition offered a narrative that had been completely left out of the headlines. The questions were piling up. Why was his family so sure he was framed? What did they know that the jury didn't? And why was this man's past connection to a famous influencer completely erased? We even found out he filed more appeals, including one this year for DNA testing, but the court denied it, saying he wasn't specific enough. This was a man who had been filing appeals for over a decade. We couldn't let it go. Reading a petition is one thing, but hearing it from the man himself? We had to try to reach him. Contacting someone in a maximum security prison isn't easy. You can't just send an email or make a call. We had to go old school, pen and paper. We wrote a letter, addressed it to the correctional facility, and sent it off, having no idea if it would even reach him or if he'd ever write back. In my first letter, I was completely upfront. I told him exactly how I found his name, explaining that I was a blogger investigating the influencer Brianna Battle because I felt she was being dishonest. I was honest that I don't believe her ex-husband, Mr. Hampton, is innocent either. I told him I found the 2008 court case between them, which led me to his current situation and his family's petition. After all that, I simply asked if he would be willing to share his side of the story. That wait for a reply felt like an eternity, a period of silence that held the weight of a decade of being defined by one single moment. Then, weeks later, a letter showed up. The return address was the North Carolina Correctional Facility. My hands were shaking. After all that research, this was it. I opened it, and the words on the page were written in careful handwriting. It was a letter from Candace Barnes. When he finally wrote back, he said he was ready. Reading his words, in his own handwriting, made everything real. He wasn't a name in a file or a face in a mugshot anymore. He was a real person. A man who has been in prison since he was 21. In his letter, he told me about that day in 2012 and gave his side of what led to his conviction. His words didn't carry the rage I expected. Instead, they conveyed an incredible tiredness. It was the tone of a man who has lived with this for over 10 years. In his latest letter, he mentioned he plans to call soon. I haven't heard his voice yet, but that call could come any day. I can't share the insane details of what he wrote, not yet. We have to be super careful and verify everything. But I can tell you it raises serious questions about how one story gets told while another gets buried. This whole thing started with a social media influencer, but it's not about her anymore. It's about a man named Candace Barnes. It's about a family in North Carolina who has always claimed their son was innocent, but whose claims seem to have gone unheard. And it's about a case with a 98-year sentence where serious questions still linger. This is just the beginning of our work on this. There is so much more to uncover, and we are going to follow this story wherever it goes. I don't know the full truth yet, but I do know his story deserves to be heard. His family's claims deserve to be investigated, and the only way to get to the bottom of it is to keep digging. If you want to follow this investigation, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll be posting all updates on this case on my community tab as we continue to look into both sides of this very complex story. Thank you for watching.